Call the meeting to order, please. Thank you. I think Angela's on her way.
Yeah.
So I'd like
check with
everybody.
you, Tom?
Now Mamie tells her.
You remind her.
I'd like to have everybody here when we begin the discussion about the elected school board. So, Marcus, you want to do the agenda review first?
Sure.
And we'll see when Angela gets here.
Okay, Mayor, members of council, tonight we have on the agenda, after a discussion about the elected school board and council interests, we'll do a joint presentation, Ron and I, on the PPEA update, as well as Sabrina will have a presentation dealing with upcoming financing. And I'm going to take this opportunity, since Ms. Williams is here, to talk just a little bit about how the collaborative has worked together to take into account what John Martin mentioned to council at the retreat, not this past September, but the September before that, and is how can we work more collaboratively throughout the city to market ourselves. And we started off with the Arts Week in September as an opportunity, or earlier this year as an opportunity, and we tried to look at the holiday season and how can we take into account all our assets, from the botanical garden to the zoo to Nauticus. How can we make sure that people understand what's available? So tonight in front of you, you have a brochure that's been put together from a joint planning perspective for festivities. We've dusted off the mermaid. We've even created a central website, which is nowplayingnorfolk.org, which will provide all of the opportunities. I would like to use this past weekend as an example of some of the early success stories. We did have the 5K and also a half marathon this weekend. I know we had some situations with parking and with people getting out of neighborhoods, which we'll improve upon. I would like to tell you that the race was sold out. It was actually the largest timed 5K race in the Commonwealth. We had 6,214 runners over the 2 days from 31 states. I think what was amazing, people were saying that they've never seen Norfolk from that perspective, running through some of the beautiful neighborhoods that we have. The Dickens Christmas Town drew over 1,500 guests over the 3-day opening weekend. And I would like to tell you that the folks from Nauticus, especially Captain Coper, they take a lot of pride in that exhibit, which is a great exhibit. MacArthur on Ice hosted 800 skaters on Saturday and Sunday. We've had hundreds of families visit the Norfolk Botanical Gardens. Million Bulb Walk, as a matter of fact, it was the highest generating revenue weekend for that event. And as you all know, we had 100,000 spectators come out and watch the parade this weekend. So just the beginning. We do believe that this consolidated marketing initiative will help with getting information out, as well as getting people to come and visit and enjoy the city. So, Mayor, with that,
Sell out a race. I just thought they kept adding.
No, he had so many tickets he sold and then it was closed. And he did, and it sold out early.
yes, it did.
For those of you who missed the float, you'll be glad to know that Councilwoman Johnson represented you very well. She managed to wave to all 100,000 people who were there.
She has her
And
voice.
she welcome back.
I heard y'all were happy.
A great time.
Yeah.
We were happy. Okay, well, Marcus, thank you very much. I think that we're off to a great holiday season, and I know the staff's working very hard at this, so we appreciate that.
Is that the website that has everything? Is that the nowplayingnorfolk.org?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, I asked you to come in early to spend a little time talking about the elected school board. Not so much about the elected school board, but about the process. We've never done this before, and so it would be very appropriate for people to have questions about the process and how we move forward with this and timetables. I think the process that we use is going to be very important, getting the confidence of the community behind the way the school board is elected. So I have served on councils that have been elected at large, ones that have been elected from the ward system. They both have virtues. They both can be made to work if people have goodwill, and I'm confident that is the case here. I think what's really important is that we try to listen as hard as we can to the community here, and this is not a political statement. I think we should try to take some time and schedule a couple of town hall meetings in the community, at least two. Would like to do that maybe in, I know the time frame is short, but maybe in December. If we could, maybe even on back-to-back evenings, if we could find the time to get out in the community, get on both sides of the community at least, and listen to what they think is, and how they would like to elect their school boards. I'm confident, having gone through this in the past, that you will find difference of opinions, and like Campostella, you will find a difference of opinions in Tarleton or Bayview or Brambleton or Largemont. And so all of those people need to be heard, and then their views respected. If they think they're being heard, I think it will certainly help in any decision we make about how the school board should be elected. Under the Collins case, there are some precedents for us to follow, including some state laws. So the path is pretty straightforward unless we seek special legislation. So in any event, if anybody has any questions or anybody got any suggestions about what we should do, is the two town hall meetings sound appropriate? Okay. I mean, I would really like to get out and listen to what people have to say. Okay. Should we try to get check with people's
December
schedules?
seems kind of tight.
Well, the only reason I was concerned
Well,
is
they
that
have the legislation in.
we've got to have some stuff in
I know, but
January.
I've already heard from constituents that are upset about the holidays and, that the public hearings are, that it's not a good time for them to come. I'm not talking about us. But if you all think it has to be done before January, I just,
I agree with you, I think December is kind of.
you want to have it at a time when work can get citizens feel like they have the time to come.
So is this automatic legislation, so we don't have to worry about filing deadlines in this case or do you have to worry about filing deadlines on this?
This is automatic legislation,
Okay.
and that the only reason, to do it in December is if you want to deviate from what's on the menu, from the transition legislation. And so that if you're just going to follow it without any changes, then you have much more time. If you want to change from what is expressly permitted, then
And that would be the same as
2000
how we are elected? Is that what you're saying is expressly committed?
yes,
How we're elected.
yes, a straightforward ward system.
Right.
It does not require any legislation. Neither does a straightforward at-large require any legislation, any further legislation. It's self-implementing. Right.
So what is the rush for December?
I
I mean,
was
not
just-
rush, but
there is some thought that the sooner we deal with this, there is, in some segments of the community, they'd like to push forward. If there's no special legislation, then nobody's going to propose anything. I think January suits me just fine. But if that's, so what that means is, reading the memo from the city attorney's office, then we will then have the question of whether or not we elect the members at large or whether they're from the wards. And that's fine with me. I think those are the only two choices we should make, actually.
Are there options with the at-large one? So let me give you an example. I've been tossing around something like, say the first election in 2016, that you have one person who runs in the Super Ward boundaries, Super Ward 7 and Super Ward 6, and one at-large. So you're voting in three. And then in 2018, you do two at-large, and once again, one from Super Ward 7 and one from Super Ward 6. You're staying within the boundaries of political boundaries, which meets the criteria for that. But now you're allowing for diversity still, because you're still keeping it by wards, and you still have at-large, and you're not. my concern with doing the ward system is not necessarily the ward system itself, although you do end up creating what I call high school politics, where you may have people that are voted in based off of their high school that they serve, and then you get that battling. But more of that, we have 5 that may end up getting elected in 2018, and that's a lot of transition to happen at once with a board, and that it would be better to split the 4 and 3 up somehow. But I'm just wondering if the super ward elections, keeping it at the super ward boundaries, you're still getting 2 from Super Ward 7, 2 from Super Ward 6, and then you have 3 at large, if that could be an option.
And that's an example of a deviation from the 2 that are expressly permitted that might well require a charter or other special legislation. That I think I followed what you said.
Right.
In concept, and that's not expressly permitted, and so that we haven't scrubbed the arguments on it. There are arguments that I'm aware of, but if you wanted to be certain that that change from the 2 expressly permitted methods was allowable under the statute, the only way to do that is through special legislation. So you could take the mystery out of it. If you don't do what's expressly granted, you can get legislation to make certain that what you're doing is compliant.
So anything other than either or is requiring legislation, that's what you're saying, either at large?
Yes, if you don't
Or
get,
by ward?
if you deviate from what's expressly granted,
Okay,
then we're left with arguing that it's covered.
Okay.
And that, of course, would permit somebody to argue the other side of it.
that is
And so that
helpful.
you'd have a system then that might be questioned, and you can eliminate the question with special legislation.
And when does that legislation have to be proposed? What would our deadline be?
That the first election is in 2016.
Right, no, I'm talking about our legislative package. When
That's
would we
what
have to have
he's
the
gonna-
decision?
He's gonna back in.
Brian has been working with me on that, and we think that the very latest would be by January the 1st. And that, like with virtually everything, there are other possibilities, but if we get past January the 1st, we run the risk of not having a sponsor or the ability to get heard, so that to maximize our likelihood of getting consideration in this session, we should have it by January the 1st, or at least the beginning of the session. Did I state that deadline correct, Brian?
Yes, we need to submit by start of session that Wednesday. And then there's the 10-day public hearing requirement for special legislation requests. And that's where the city attorney comes up with January 1, just to be safe, that we would need to take our action by the first of the year.
Well, so then I guess we need to meet in December.
So we have 3 weeks, starting next week, until Christmas holiday, so.
Your holiday's longer than ours, Tom.
Yeah, no.
I mean, our.
Well, no, it goes until the 19th, but generally, we don't want to schedule something on the 22nd when people are traveling.
Yeah.
Like tonight.
And if it did require, it would have to come back before us for a vote.
We'd have to have it, absolutely. I mean, we'd have
So
to
we have a
public
meeting on the
hearing.
16th.
We'd have 2 meetings, and then we have a public, then we'd have our own public hearing here, I would think, before we voted on anything, so.
Well, if we do it in December, we're gonna need to go ahead and start putting the word out now, especially to all of the Civic League leaders, because they're holding their meetings now. The good thing is that it's towards the end of the month, so they haven't started their meetings for December, so they can get the word out.
We'll say one, Tommy, I'd like, if you were really gonna flesh that out, I think you ought to put it down on paper, so some
Sure.
of us can
Yeah.
try to figure out what you're saying. And
Would be very similar to what Virginia Beach does, partially by district and partially at large. It's
Yeah.
the same idea.
Yeah.
And a lot of places do that.
but I'm not so sure some residents of Hamilton are gonna want some people in Ocean View, for instance, voting on who they select. I mean, there are gonna be issues out there, and I'm not being critical.
Yeah, no, you would still vote within super wards for 4 of the seats. they would still be voting within boundaries. There would be 3 that would be at large.
I've just lived through this. I lived through the Collins thing. I know how protective people are of who's going to represent them, who selects their representatives. Maybe I'm too sensitive to it now. Maybe we have changed, but I just, you wait till you get out into the community and figure out what everybody really has to say before we come up with a plan. So that's what so we want to try to do something in December, and then if we,
If
It
January,
has to
we're
be
gonna do
decided in this
something-
legislative session, is that right?
That's right, that in the 2016 session, it will start in January, and most of the laws will not be effective until July the 1st. And so that you could speak special legislation to try to have it passed and effective prior to the campaigns in March, but that does not look like it's very workable at all or practical, so that in order for the people to prepare, choose to run, and run, 2015 appears to be the session.
So, minus the Tuesday council meetings, you either have the 3rd and the 4th, or the 10th and the 11th, and then one council meeting on the 16th.
What was that?
The 3rd and the 4th, or the 10th and the 11th. We can't do the 9th because we have a council meeting.
Oh, so you're talking about doing it on a Tuesday?
Either next week or the week after that.
But you're talking about a Tuesday.
No, not a Tuesday, a Wednesday, Thursday, because there's, unless you want to do it on a Monday and another day. You said 2 back to back, I thought.
or we could do one a week. I mean, it doesn't have to be just as long
It
as.
just needs to be done before the 16th.
Do the
So we
4th and
could
the
do
11th.
We have a council meeting scheduled for the 16th.
9th and the
For the
16th.
9th, okay.
You could do the 4th and the 11th, which are Thursdays, stays off of Wednesday nights.
Okay.
But we don't have to be at all of them.
You don't have to be, I mean, if you kind
We can
of.
split it.
So we'll do one on the 4th and one on the 11th, is that okay? Town hall meetings, maybe one at I don't know, Granby, and one at, where else?
Ruffner.
Ruffner, okay. Does that work?
Works for me.
Mr.
I
Rick,
don't have my schedule, but I think.
if we had it at Ruffner,
One of
do
them.
you think that the majority of them will come to Ruffner?
Versus where?
Um, Maybe an elementary school?
Why wouldn't they come to Ruffner?
Oh, I'm just asking.
Ruffner has ample
Ruffner's
parking.
good.
Okay.
It's good, we usually have a lot.
We've had budget hearings there.
Yeah,
Been
Ruffner's
well
good.
Yeah.
2 well attended.
Yeah,
Ruffner's got a nice theater.
and put in the seat.
So the
Okay.
4th and the 11th,
The
is that what
4th
you're
at
saying?
Granby and the 11th at Ruffner?
What time?
Let's do 6.
Yeah, let's put early.
Yeah.
Well, people gotta get a chance to get off from work and get there. 6 o'clock?
6.
6 would be good.
They can be.
Okay, good
Letter to
enough,
the
thank you.
Ruffner,
That helps.
you'll send us something to remind us.
Yeah.
So Mr. Graham's gonna be on the phone?
If they're
I
available.
don't know yet.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we need to know
If they're
if the
not, I
schools
can,
are.
if not, I can volunteer mine.
And the question that we're gonna pose to the.
We could also do it on here.
The question is, how should we elect the school board? We don't have a preconceived plan. The question is, what do you think?
What time, Paul?
6?
Can we ask Marcus to have a staff member to coordinate how that's gonna work? Are they gonna, is it gonna be done in a charrette format? And we have
No,
little groups, or
No,
or
I
is that
think
us?
it would be, we would be listening to the public is what we've done. in the
Okay.
past. Just like on a budget hearing, they would come down and everybody would get, 3 minutes and they would tell us, take that.
Brenda, do we have to ask the Justice Department for anything?
We do not, that, litigation last year ended the requirement of pre-clearance. We couldn't get pre-clearance if we wanted it now, so we do not. But the Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act continues to apply, but that Section 5 no longer requires pre-clearance.
Okay, thank you. That solves that. Council interest. Mr. Reddick?
Yeah, a couple of things. I guess the first thing I'd like to mention, and at first I said I wasn't going to mention it, nationwide there, mixed emotions about the Ferguson decision last night. But I can truthfully say that since that incident, that I have seen Chief Goldsmith institute things for our local police department, that if our officers follow the training and follow what he's trying to do, that, we won't have these awful incidents. I don't think we can, put our heads in the sand and believe that Ferguson doesn't affect nationwide. As a matter of fact, I think most of us will believe that policing has changed because of that. And so I just want to say that I'm confident that hopefully I'm confident that Chief Goldsmith will continue doing what he's doing so that we won't fall into, that realm of policing. You mentioned Herbert Collins earlier, and funny you would mention it because one of the things that Herbert was always concerned about was the water bill. And for
Was the
some water bill, yeah. And for some reason, I'm just really concerned about our water bill. One of the things that I asked Kristen Lentz maybe 6 or 8 months ago, and Marcus, you probably can give me an answer later on. When HRSD comes out and they put a tag on a water customer's home because the bill is late, and then there's a fee associated with it, sometimes $15, $20. Where does that money go? If it goes to HRSD, do we share in that money, or do they just keep it? One time we used to have a committee, on water, which we haven't had lately. And, it's an enterprise fund, and I always probably offends Marcus when I say that it's the city manager's slush fund, and that's not just you, any city manager, And I guess my question is, another question is, do our water customers, well, I guess first of all, who sets Virginia Beach's water rates?
Virginia Beach does.
Okay. And do our water customers pay more than their rate, or do you know?
I do not know.
Okay. And, for Lake Gaston, we've been, collecting water from Lake Gaston and treating it and sending it to the beach. And when does that contract end?
I believe that's 2028?
2028.
Yes.
And there's no way to raise those rates in between?
No, right, that the contract that we have with them now doesn't involve their rates per se, they set them. And what we do is we have a cost of service agreement. So with the rate making and engineering principles, we charge them our cost of servicing their water, so that their water comes from Gaston through pipes that we own into our reservoirs and then onto their system, and we charge them for all of that. We treat their water, and that at 2028, we own that entire system, and we'll have to reach agreement with Virginia Beach on going beyond 2028.
Our water system is, I'm sure all of you know, is probably our predecessors that created that water system. They were just geniuses in terms of the wells that we have going into it. But Marcus, I think our customers pay too much. So I'd like another presentation, on our water rates as we move into the next budget cycle. Sure. That's all I have.
All right, two quick things. Marcus, I forwarded you some concerns about some citizens about the Taylor Whittle House. Can you give an update on where we're going with that? Have we responded to them?
Which one's that, Barkley? I'm sorry.
Taylor Whittle House, it's a historic house where
It sits there in the
chamber,
old Freemason area.
It used to be where the symphony was.
the junior league and I
Okay,
think the
yes.
historic. And it was damaged in a storm several years ago, and I think we've got funds set aside, but it's not habitable now. It's something I don't think we want to lose, it's a piece of history.
Right.
So,
Sure. Do we own that?
We did, the city owns it.
and
That's the first
do
time.
we have some money set aside, but I know they're anxious. We need to meet, somebody, whoever you assign, needs to sit down with the groups and set out a course where we're headed. The other thing is, at some point, when you feel ready, I'd like, for lack of a better word, the downtown retail initiative, the ideas that have been going around about how to spark some small retail downtown using some of our property and other people's property. We ought to get a presentation on that to the whole council so that we know where we're thinking and we need to keep moving.
Yeah, preferably in December if we can.
We've got a lot of interested people willing to put up their money, their property. We're
We
gonna,
need to show the same energy they do.
right, let's don't let that go into it. Those two things, keep us posted. That's all I have.
Very quickly, first, I want to preface this by saying that Mr. Riddick and Ms. Williams do an absolutely great job with the prayers every week. And I, God knows, don't want to be the one responsible for this. But we're going into a holiday season, and I think we need to be a little more attuned to being more ecumenical about our prayers. We have people in our community that we're not necessarily meeting their faith. And whether we either have an ecumenical prayer or we do as we used to, where we had members of other religions and other faiths come and do the opening prayer. Am I the only one that's bothered by this, or?
I agree.
I would like to see us look into that. How does everybody else feel about this? I mean, are you fine with the way it is and I'm the only outlier other than Tommy?
I've had people ask me about coming to pray other ministers, and I always refer them to Breck. Whether they follow through on that or not
Well, we
is up
certainly have
to
done it
them.
in the past.
But I've had other people at different, a lot of different people, and I always, here, let me give
Yeah.
them.
Well, I'm not looking for just
You know.
ministers of Christian faith.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
there have been some of other faiths as
Right.
well, but I always refer them. Now, if they fail to follow up,
The problem is that they were the least ecumenical of all. They were,
Well, we could have
I mean,
guidelines.
well, there's a whole set of laws about this, and probably we may be
But
pushing the lid the way we are, but I'm glad to let you work with Breck to figure it out.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
okay, there.
How does everybody
you jump
feel
into
about a
that.
moment of silence?
In lieu of a prayer,
Yeah.
I prefer prayer.
I prefer prayer.
I'm okay with prayer. You said it politely, it's just we have to be careful. My mom's Jewish and my dad's Catholic, and I was raised Catholic, so.
Right, and I clearly had.
The Jewish
some people
community-
who
You're
feel-
Baptist, right?
Yes, and I was married in a Lutheran church.
To a Hindu.
Yeah, that's right. I think we do have to be careful with.
So are there other city council persons wanting to do the prayer? Tommy?
The whites
I
don't
would do
pray.
a moment of silence.
I know that, and it's certainly,
Don't
we are
pray.
certainly giving
John
that.
Foster
we're
and Joe
giving that
Green
opinion.
prayed the whole time. The whites don't pray.
I don't know, Andy can get us a good great prayer. Come on, Andy. That's gonna be the front page headlines tomorrow, Paul, you know that.
Okay.
But see, I'm in between.
Yeah.
Dr. Whibley will pray tonight.
I'm gonna pray for some kind of guidance on that.
You could do the moment of silence when it's your turn to pray, okay?
Well, in fairness, we could do that. We could just say, this is your week.
And if you choose to do a moment of silence,
I'm
you
gonna
do a moment of
defer- I'm to
silence.
defer.
Pass, okay, all right. I knew you guys would,
It'll
be excited.
Mamie, you want to work with Terry? Okay, and the two of you come up with some ideas about how we might
Maybe doesn't care. Why has she been brought into this?
do it. So she asked a question about it. So, okay, all right, Terry, you do it. Okay, and you come back with a plan. Okay,
All right,
okay,
that's it.
all right, Mamie.
I just want to talk about 5 Points, the Better Block, the other weekend. It was a great event. Angela and I were there in the freezing cold. It was very cold. but it was worth the while that we were there to see all of the hard work that the small businesses, that the citizens of Norfolk have been working on this for an extremely long time for us. And as a city, and to see the people come out was great. However, Marcus, the businesses were charged a $50 fee, some type of $50 fee. All of the businesses, they have their business licenses, but they were charged the $50 fee, which expires next month. So there wasn't any type of prorate. And so I was just wondering, for the citizens to come out and give their time and effort, and we're trying to encourage small businesses, and for them to have to be charged another fee to do what they did for us those 2 days, Friday and Saturday. I just, I'm not feeling that too much, but maybe you can explain that to me more, and so that we can explain it to them. Because it expires in December. So,
It's a special event license.
right.
Yes, it's a special event license, and even though they have a business license, if they participate in a special event, they still have to have that special event license. None of the licenses are prorated, so if somebody starts their business today, they have to pay their $50, and it's gonna expire on December 31st, and on January 1st, they still have to pay. But it is a special event license. The people who do festivals and things like that at Town Point, they have to pay it for any other special event. It's separate from their business license, and they do have to pay the $50. Yeah.
Yeah, but
It may not have been explained to them properly, and so that might have been
yeah,
the
so
confusion.
I think that's more of it.
Okay.
Us
Communication.
explaining, communicating to them,
Okay.
because they did it for the city.
And the program was great.
Angela?
I actually have a couple of things. Better Block was great. I really did have a good time. Mr. Riddick, I was thinking about what you said about the water, and most other utilities companies just send a cutoff notice. I don't know why we have to send somebody to spend gas and manpower and all that to put a tag on a door. Everybody else sends a cutoff notice. It has a cutoff date on it, and it says, if you don't pay by this date, you're gonna be shut off. So I think that's something that,
Usually by the time they get the tag, they're well beyond the due date.
Yeah,
I've
but
received several notices.
it could, I think that's like a waste of time and energy. But anyway, I was in Austin last week at the National League of Cities Conference, and one of the things that the conference is advocating for is the Marketplace Fairness Act, which makes it so that anyone purchasing anything online, they're gonna pay the sales tax based on the locality that they live in. It creates an air of fairness for those vendors who have online presence but don't have a brick and mortar presence. Right now, if you buy online, like at Nordstrom's, and you have a Nordstrom's in your city, you're charged the sales tax to for that city. But if you don't have a Nordstrom's in your city, you don't pay anything. And so for small businesses that are online, or for small businesses that are really local that may not have the ability to compete online, it makes a difference. And it also brings revenue to the cities as well through the sales tax. So that's one of the things that we're working on in NLC. And also HUD and the National League of Cities has also partnered to help end homelessness among veterans. So with I think that might be something good. Is our veterans guy here, our homeless person our homeless department person? I don't see
Sarah,
her.
Sarah's back here, but I,
Okay.
no, Sarah's, that's, you see it.
Can't see her.
Sorry, Michael.
But that might be, if you go onto NLC.org.
Susan, I mean,
you can-
everybody raised their hand, you're involved in homeless. A whole bunch of them back there.
You can get some more information about that, but I think it's a very good partnership. There are some specific initiatives that are targeted towards chronic homelessness for veterans, as well as preventative things for veterans and homelessness. As far as the Ferguson verdict is concerned, I can't really say personally that I was surprised by it. I did have hope that it would be differently. But what I would like is, I know that the chief is doing a lot of things to ensure that the officers are friendly to the community. They are sensitive to our culture and the diversity that we have. I'd like to see a presentation from the chief as to what you guys are actually doing, the training programs that you have implemented, how routinely those come about, that kind of thing. What is the requirement for the use of deadly force? And also an update on the body cameras, because that was another issue that came up in NLC. The difference in how situations are actually perceived when you have a body camera as opposed to when you don't have a body camera. And the same incident can be viewed two totally different ways with the body camera. So I'd like to know exactly what's going on in our police department regarding diversity and sensitivity training. And then lastly, we've got holiday closings coming up. I've been talking about this since July. And
Friday after Christmas.
the Friday after Christmas, but then I thought about it, and a couple of people also asked that there's also a Friday after New Year's Day. And so maybe we could work out something where we could maybe do a half a day on Christmas Eve, all day Christmas Day, and then the 26th, and then maybe New Year's Day and the 2nd.
They did it in 2009, same calendar.
Yeah, precedent doesn't really matter, but the thing that matters to me is, giving our employees, we can't pay them what they are worth. And so to give them extra time, and then everybody can come back on January the 5th, all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and ready to go to work.
So, Madam Vice Mayor, we did go back, and I know you said precedent is not a concern for you. We looked at your request.
In this area.
Right,
in this
yes,
area.
yes. For the day after Christmas, and as administration, we're fine with that, having the 24th, the 25th, and the 26th off. We actually did it in 2008. I hadn't thought about January the 2nd until we had a brief conversation today, which I haven't had. It's ultimately the council's decision. I'm very comfortable with the 26th being off. I just haven't thought through the January 2nd.
It's a Friday. Most people will probably
You
take the
know,
day off, and nobody's gonna come down here to pay taxes on
Don't get Barclays
January
started.
the 2nd.
Are we off? Is the city closed the 24th,
Yes, 24th, 25th.
the entire day?
You're
Yes,
closed all day the 24th,
and the
the
25th.
25th, and the 26th.
That's a Friday. The 26th is a Friday. Who's gonna come in
Why
on
don't-
Friday?
Why don't you substitute one of the other numerous holidays we get for that? See if the
How about a half a day on the 24th and all day on the 2nd?
I'm not in favor of the 2nd. I'm in favor of the 26th, but I'm not in favor of the 2nd.
Right, I'm not talking to Terry, but I agree.
I agree with
The
that.
big night is New Year's Eve. People, a lot of, get themselves together on the 1st and come to work on the 2nd.
For one
That's,
day.
we're civic, the community's is making the payroll.
Just go with the 26th,
Here,
take the
thank-
compromise. Take the
Especially if our
26th.
citizens are working, and I think most of them are on the 2nd. And they're paying the
lost
salaries
the battle
of the
already.
people that that we're letting have time off.
The private
Sorry we
sector
sound like the
probably makes
Grinch,
more money
right?
than what we
Yeah.
pay our people.
Actually, I'm
Okay.
concerned.
We'll take the
with them.
26th.
Let my employees know who are coming to work on the 2nd.
I'll take it.
Okay. Tom.
Yeah, I have 5 items. The first one is, I promised you I'd get you a copy of the resolution suggestion as part of our legislative package in supporting the governor's initiative for education, particularly with his promise that 3 school systems would be fully accredited by the time he leaves office. So This is a resolution that we hope to, with our partners around the state, to also get other city councils to agree to sponsor similar resolutions. And this wouldn't be for today's meeting, but I would assume on one of the upcoming meetings. If you have any suggestions and changes, if you can let me know. And thank you, Brian, for helping to put this together. Appreciate that. I was a little bit concerned after reading today's resolution, our public hearing, the bid on the golf course, that this is a 20-year lease. Am I mistaken in that? Because originally I thought the terms were 5 years and then it would be renewable just like previous golf operators have had. Was there a reason to go with 20 years? Do we get a better deal out of this?
We started off with 5 years
Uh-huh.
with the request for proposal, but what we received back to make, I guess, the numbers work for the offerers was 20 years. And what we ended up, because we had 20 years, we have to do this invitation for a bid as opposed to an RFP. And we saw with the responses that we were comfortable enough that we could get out of the business of subsidizing golf.
I
You
would
could
think
what?
they'd have to
Get out of the
advertise their
business of having
equipment
a
things
subsidy
down
from the
Right.
city.
Yeah,
We
no,
could
I-
actually make money.
There is some sensitivity with the previous golf operator down at Ocean View, and they're wanting to extend this, and then now all of a sudden, because the original RFP that went out was only for 5 years, and they had an option to extend it, but had to pay more, and now the terms changed a little bit to 20 years. And I understand the competition. I also want to make sure, though, that we have out clauses in this if this operator turns out to not be what's best for the city, and that these are serious out clauses because we have been burned at Lake Wright, and I just want to make sure that that doesn't happen again.
We do.
Okay.
So it is just the invitation,
So we vote on it. Yeah.
then we can read on it again.
Well, the way that it works is that all the bids are sealed, whatever you receive. So for the first time, I guess it's when Breck opens it on the dais, we'll know what we have. And from that point, there are a couple of options. One, that you could receive it, or the recommendation from the administration would be receive it, or that we analyze it and come back to you on the night.
Well, I think that's much more appropriate. Do we make that motion if that's the case up there?
Do you have a problem with delaying that long? Is that
Well,
okay?
Yeah, I think
It's kind of a big deal. I mean,
I hear you.
It's a very big deal.
Yeah.
And so you're saying that only one bid will be open?
As many as you receive
Will be open,
will be open.
and then you will analyze those.
The belief is that if you have one, it would have been the one that would have had the best package during the RFP process.
But we can delay it and discuss it.
Yeah, I think we should. Who's taking care of it now? Same,
Yes, they're still there, but they're operating under a skeleton crew because they know they didn't get the bid or the offer.
Did they make off?
They did,
How do they know they didn't get it?
because they were already told the original process was an RFP, and they eliminated companies and went with one. And I guess through negotiations, they came back with a 20-year offer. Or something happened where it changed the terms, so now they have to go to an invitation to bid.
And anybody
Can
could
come
have
back.
put that in, yes.
And we notified the other
Yes,
original
Everybody.
folks that they can come back?
Exactly.
All right, that's one, that's
That's
two.
two.
Yes, two, thanks. There's been a lot of shootings lately, and murders, or accidental shootings. There was a shooting in East Ocean View, but the other shootings did not happen in communities I represent. But it's interesting because there is an association with two of the shootings that happened on A and B. One was a former student of mine, and one is a daughter of a staff member that I used to work with. I know this has been called on in the past to do a blue ribbon commission, but very similar to what we did with the Commission of Poverty, I'm wondering if there's a need to do a commission on gangs and guns or just on guns, and bringing experts together to discuss how we can work on this in our communities. Today, I was locked in a room all day doing administrative hearings. It was my turn as an administrator for students that were being recommended for reinstatement or long-term suspension or expulsion. And without revealing too much, it was interesting to see kid after kid come in. And really what it came down to with most of those cases, instead of committing what they did, because of the stigma with snitching and telling, everything could have been prevented that these students were involved in. Instead of going to an adult and telling them, but there is a culture that is being created of not telling on or not saying anything about what you've seen. And I think that is probably a lot of the problems that our police officers are having in solving some of these cases, is that nobody wants to say anything. And I think we have to start with our youth, like we did many years ago. And Anthony was not a good actor in his video, but maybe we need to redo that concept and start going into our schools again and start discussing what the consequences are for these types of actions. I don't think, I know it's happening, but I don't think it's happening like it did. And even when we had PACE, we have community officers, but I think the educational aspects of this are missing. It's not happening as full as it should. And, Paul, with your guidance, maybe this is a time, it was just sad to see shooting after shooting again. There was kind of this lull, and then all of a sudden it popped back up again. And I just have concerns of what I'm seeing, and I'm sure most of my colleagues, most of you believe that maybe there's something that can be addressed. And I'm not saying gangs are huge, but there's some new stuff cropping up. Some of the Norview incidences that happened may have been either wannabe gang affiliation or gang, so maybe it's time to have a bigger conversation.
And Andy probably knows better than I do, but I heard today about some of the kids in our schools, the heroin issues. They're down in the 14 and 15-year-olds at different places. You probably see it more than I do, Andy, but maybe it's,
See the gang involvement in 13, 14. Heroin, heroin's much bigger now than it has been in a long time. Portsmouth was always the heroin capital, and it seems that it's all creeped over to here. And that's what it was known for, unfortunately for them. But I think from what I've seen, you have, and with Tommy, I know sees in the schools, I'm defending kids all the time that are 13, 14, 15 years old, 16, 17, they're all in gangs. Now, some of them are loose affiliations, some of them are just where they live. But, if it's the neighborhood, they call themselves a gang, they could be wearing colors.
Well, why don't we try to shape what a commission might look like in a time length? Sure. And then, come back in a week or 2 weeks and disseminate it, and then see if we can get something going in January. Okay.
Number 4 is PPEA. I know we're going to discuss it later. I just wanted to understand the process a little bit better. We really haven't, as a council, I know we've discussed some things in closed session, mainly dealing with the dollars, but when it comes to design aspects of the schools, is this today the opportunity for us to make recommendations or suggestions about things, or is it a done deal?
Well, it was never a done deal until you vote on it
Okay.
to move forward.
Okay, they're small, I have some small things, but not big auditoriums. The last thing is, I was very disturbed this weekend by the article that ran on the Hotel Conference Center and the financing for it. Now, I've stayed out of conversations with design because I voted against it, and so I didn't feel like I should have a right to say what it looks like. But I feel like I do have a right to question some things with the financing of this. I was mainly disturbed that it was indicated that financing had not been secured for this project. And I'm concerned because of a project of this magnitude, in which I believe ground has been broken in some parts, that financing had not been secured. And I went back and looked at the documentation that council voted on, and there was an original deadline of September 30th that Bruce Thompson had to present of this year, a commitment of financing. I asked Bernard about that this weekend after the article ran and found that there was an extension granted to December 31st of this year for him to commit financing. My major concern is not even just the deadlines, but that on August 20th of 2013, last year, Bruce sat in front of this council, and I pulled up the video, and I had to search for it, and I even emailed Breck this weekend because I couldn't find any documentation online for 2013 meetings, but then I ended up finding it. And Bruce said to us, "We met with our lenders, and our financing is still fine." And I have some major concerns if that was not the truth, that when he came before us and said that. I want to know why on July 25th there was an extension granted to him to go till December 31st, and why there's ground even being broken unless I have no understanding about how projects work. But I know on other big projects, we've required developers to prove financing beforehand. And my concern is that this is a huge subsidy from the city on this project. And I want it to work now because it's been voted on. I don't want it to fail because we're putting money into this. It's got to work. But I am concerned now when the developer just admitted in a newspaper basically that financing had not been secured for a project that, according to the timelines, is officially the start, like, kicking off in January.
And it's interesting, just to follow on what Tommy said, I distinctly remember, and I'm gonna just step one step over to when Cordish was here. Because I remember when Cordish was here, I asked them how were they financing it, and it was, theirs was self-financed. But I kept going into the idea of, well, if you're self-financed, then what happens if you're the successor corporation, what is gonna do this, and we're not selling regardless. But I remember that, and what was interesting is that you mentioned that, but the one thing that I think I remember about Thompson was the fact that he said that I have financing is in place or it's secured, it's whatever the phrase was, because Cordish was the one that struck me that I needed to know about. And so when Thompson said it, I didn't question him about it because that's how I understood it was there. And accepting his word that it was there, of course, I think, I don't tell you what the deadlines were, but I do agree that if we are in a position now where I'm sure that we have bonds that we have to issue, am I correct? Are we issuing bonds? Are we
Well,
going
according to that same timeline, even the amended one, it said that bonds for the city were supposed to be committed on September 30th, the same deadline he had.
So where are
But
we?
that did not change when the amendment went out for Schedule G.
So it means we could be
Exhibit G.
bonded off and he's running on a line of credit.
We manage our bond obligation under a cash flow method.
Mhm.
So the capital improvement budget you get annually has provisions in for reimbursement. And so that we don't sell bonds until our cash flow needs it. And so, yes, that a portion of our financing, a significant portion for this project will be bonds, but all of our bonds are managed on that cash flow basis. We're not selling them boutique for each project.
Okay.
The sales are on a cash flow basis so that we don't have a negative arbitrage on this project right now.
But we are into the project for what we've spent in the past on this, which
Yes.
is tens of millions.
Well, it was 10 million to acquire all of the property,
Right.
and we've had architects, so we were above 10 million from the time we started this, yes.
Right, but I think that the one thing, because I was out of town and I read it online, and I think what struck me is that we have now entered into a project where he could be running on a line of credit. We know how that works, or however, he could be striking a check, but we don't know where we're gonna end up. And I think none of this would have come up, frankly, if it wasn't for Will's problems. So we wouldn't have been concerned at all as to how any of this has happened.
So, to I guess, answer a couple of
So,
questions.
yeah, if
that
you
aren't-
could tell us where we're at,
Sure.
because we're now in a project that he has no financing on.
So, if you go back, I don't know, over a decade when this process began with having a hotel conference center. A couple things happened. One is that you may recall that a public amenities fund was established. And the public amenities fund is 1% on the meals tax and 1% on the hotel tax, which sets aside enough funds to pay the debt service on the hotel conference center. So whenever we get to a point that we're issuing bonds that are related to the hotel conference center, we have more than enough money in that fund, which is going to pay the debt service. Okay. So then let's go back to the first question. During this process, the date predates me, going back over a decade. There have been amendments to this MDA over time. Before you voted on this, or this body voted on the MDA, which I believe was in
2013.
April 2013, there had been no fewer than 5 amendments. And typically what happens is those amendments are provided to the city manager. And it could be anything that relates to time slippage, things of that nature. With that said, for a long time we were in pre-development. And the pre-development phase provided us an opportunity to see what the costs were going to be to get to more than 35% drawings and 50% drawings. And money is spent during that time period. But also, during that time period, as days slip, what occurs is that we would do something like an amendment. So in this case, while at one point we were talking about the financing in September, because other dates slipped, what we did is we had an amendment, and there are many things that are in that amendment. So if the concern is the developer getting financing for this project, that's not a concern that we have.
So did Bruce have financing originally or have a commitment letter? I mean, for him to stand up and, I mean, I will pull the video if you want. He said that he had it. And that was a year ago. That was over a year ago. And now all of a sudden he's saying he doesn't have it.
Yeah. I'm not sure I know what you're saying, okay?
Right.
But having financing and having a group of people together that are a part of the project, and then having whatever's going to be the ultimate, mechanism. I'm not sure exactly what he said, but always in that agreement, there was a time that he would have the financing done. And what we have right now is at the end of this year.
We can certainly ask him what he meant by it, but in our business, to reconcile the apparently contradictory statements, you can reconcile it to take his expression of one of just confidence that I think that Gold Key might even, like Cordish, have the ability to do this through equity. And what he was saying to you was he's been talking to lenders, and with the transaction, that he's got no worries about it. One of the exceptional provisions in this agreement is that as we're working towards the conclusion, we're both spending money, and if either party doesn't continue, then they have to pay the other party's expenses to that date. And so that if we did in fact were surprised and that Gold Key didn't have the financial wherewithal and had that default, then the contract provides for them to pay to us all of the expenses that we incurred since they started.
Well, keep in mind that we're not without precedent. We do know that this occurred at the corner of Brambleton and Granby, where we had a hole in the ground that the builder had begun the construction. Then all of a sudden, whether he was doing it on letter of intent or not, he ended up having to stop, and then the government came in and took it back, or took it over for whatever their purposes will be, whatever the federal government sees over there. He began it without having his money in place, or at least enough of his money in place. So now we have to look at where the cautious aspect of where we have to be is if he was supposed to have provided us with what he's doing, and we've missed that date, we need to know. If we haven't missed that date, then we need to know when that got amended. Because right now, you have citizens who read the article And trust me, I got it. I even
That's
got
what
it
I
from
got
my
this weekend.
wife about it.
I got it from my husband.
My
You know,
wife
what are
too.
we doing that we have a guy who doesn't have financing, and we are now in a partnership with him as a city, and we're gonna bond, or, you know, I ultimately, have to bond our portion of it. And he has told us he has financing, but now he has no financing. So we need to figure that out.
Right, and I would just say again that Gold Key is within the parameters of the agreement, with the financing coming to a conclusion by the end of this calendar year.
So, and I'm just curious, did the agreement allow them to break ground even without having construction financing in place?
Yes, because as Bernard said beforehand, written into the agreement is that if for any reason that they pull out of this,
I understand that, but you don't want to, legally, we never want to be in that position. We don't want to be in that position. We want to have that taken care of ahead of time. I appreciate that fact. That's how people like myself make a living, but we don't want to be there.
So who handles anything with finance now? Is it Bernard or is it your staff or is it a combination of both?
It's a combination.
So when he has that financing before December 31st, unless it gets extended again, then the letter goes to you or if he's gonna pay for it out of his cash.
So what I'm hearing is if there are any issues you want to, it to be brought to your attention
I
immediately.
think so.
Sure.
I mean, that's what we're here for.
I feel like we're more asking a assurance on your part that things are going as they're supposed to go.
Yes.
That's, I think,
Exactly.
what we're asking.
Exactly.
Very frankly, I think the thrust of this article was less about the concern
Right.
of the
I just-
financing.
yeah.
The thrust of the article was who the financing was gonna be with. And so I think and the headline was a little deceiving.
It was.
And so it was more that the headline made it sound like
Exactly.
that financing was in trouble, and really what the article was about, we're not doing business with a certain bank.
But it brought the question
It
up
did.
for me.
So
that's
I just need you here loud and firmly to say, no problem, we're moving ahead.
And we
Thank
want,
Remember, it's on video.
Yes, it's on video.
but we want an
But
answer.
Bernard can
You can
interpret
find
it
it.
any kind of way he wants to, don't forget that.
Now, I do understand it, that he may be significantly strong enough that he can do, if he's self-financing, then we just need to know that. If
Yeah,
he's
I
self-financing.
really interpreted that he was actually he had lots of financing, he was just figuring out the best deal.
I mean, he could be strong enough that he'd be striking checks
Yeah.
or running a line of
Probably
credit.
still
That,
shopping.
I can see that too.
He's still shopping.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But
Is that
we-
the case?
But we
He could
need
have
to-
one in
we
his
need to-
pocket and be shopping for 2 or 3 more. It could be a construction versus permanent financing.
Yeah.
So there are lots of, it's complicated.
Well, and like I said, he could be running a line of credit right now.
This is a $126 million complication, so.
You just need to understand this is not something you and I deal with. Other
I know.
people do it all the time. Yeah.
Okay, Tommy, anything?
That's it. That was number
Okay.
5.
Marcus, thank you for that assurance, and by the way, this is a
Not
great
bad.
pamphlet. I hope you get a chance to get over to Nauticus.
Yes.
Bill Kofer has spent months crawling around on the floor at the bottom of Nauticus, putting together a train system, this miniature train system. I mean, it's terrific. So if you get a chance to bring your kids, they will absolutely, or your grandparents or yourself, you'll enjoy it. So, but I think the staff, everybody who's pulled together to make all of this stuff happen, from Town Point Park to Rockefeller and Ocean View. Rockefeller and Ocean View.
You've been to it. The Christmas tree lighting.
Oh, yeah, okay, we're good, okay, well, it goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
All right, so if
He
you
flipped
flip
the
the
switch.
Harvey
He flipped the
Lindsay is
switch.
Rockefeller.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, well, why don't we eat, and then we'll come back and do the PPEA, okay? Thank you.
Forgot about the food.
I wish I sometimes could forget about food.